Hi, I'm Kristen, and this is a yin yoga class for hips and low back. We'll be low to the ground today. Yin is all about stretching the connective tissues in and around the muscles. Tend to get tight if we sit too long or too much, or if maybe we are doing exercises like cycling or running that don't take time to then stretch out the muscles or the connective tissue. We will hold these positions for about 3 to 5 minutes each, just depending on which pose it is, and we'll stay really low to the ground as well. So with that, we're going to start in a seated position. If you want, you can use a block if that feels good to you, if you have one. If you don't, you can use a pillow or even a book, potentially. So just an option for you. If your hips tend to be really tight and maybe your knees are a little bit up past your hips, you can always sit on a block or sit on a book or sit on a pillow or a blanket, and that will kind of even out the hips and allow them to release down towards the ground. So starting in a nice, easy seated position, hands resting softly on the knees, closing the eyes or maybe sending the gaze softly down to the ground, rolling the shoulders back, away from the ears, and just coming into that natural breath, the inhales and the exhales, in through the nose and out through the nose. Sitting up nice and tall, nice long spine. Noticing the rise and the fall of the belly with each inhale and exhale. Noticing what may have shown up with you on the mat in your practice today. Simply acknowledging it with love and compassion. No judgments. On your next inhale, take a big deep inhale, swooping the arms up towards the sky, bringing the hands together. Exhaling as hands come to heart center. Inhale, swoop the arms up. Hands come together. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Placing those right fingertips on the mat. Left arm comes up, stretching up and over to the right. Bending into that right elbow, allowing yourself to get a little deeper side stretch on the left side. Keeping both of the sit bones on the ground. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, left hand comes down, right arm goes up and over to the left. Again, bending into that left arm. Feeling a nice stretch up the left or up the right side of the body. Inhale, both arms up, reaching tall. Exhale, one more time, right hand comes down, left arm goes up and over. Inhale. Exhale, left fingertips come down. Inhale, both arms up. Reaching tall, shoulders pull away from the ears. Big, deep inhale. Exhale, we're going to twist to the right. Hands come down one comes down on the knee, one comes behind you. So left hand comes onto the right knee, right hand comes behind you. Gaze is either to the side or over that right shoulder. Taking time here just to stretch out the spine, not forcing it or controlling it, but just simply allowing it to stretch. Inhale, both arms up to center. Exhale, over to the left. Inhale, back to center, reaching tall. Exhale, twisting to the right. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, over to the left. And slowly start to unwind. Keeping that right leg in front. That left leg is going to come out to the side, bending at the knee. We're going to take our chest facing that right knee, twisting towards that right side, and then walking the hands out, only as far as you can go that's comfortable. And then when you get there, you should feel a nice stretch up the outside of that right leg, maybe even in the hip area. You can relax the elbows down to the ground. This is where your block can come in to play if you want to rest your head on the block or a pillow. Noticing if you're holding tension anywhere in the body, if you're grasping on. Breathe into that space. And slowly walk the hands back up. Staying here, we're going to come back so our chest is facing forward. Doing the same thing forward instead of to the side. So walking those hands out in front. Again, using that block if that feels good. And only coming down as far as what feels good to you. Keeping those sit bones on the ground. Relaxing the arms. Slowly lifting up, walking the hands back to center. And switching sides. So left leg comes in front, right knee bends, leg goes behind you. If you need to, you can widen that stance a little bit. Again, just depending on your hips and how tight your legs may be. Again, taking a twist towards the left knee and then walking the hands down and using that block if it feels good and coming down only as far as you can that feels good. Again, feeling a nice stretch up the left outer side of that leg. Noticing if you're tensing the legs. And if you are, just simply breathe, using the breath, allowing it to soften the body. Slowly lifting the head, walking the hands back up, coming forward, walking the hands out in front of you, and finding what feels good to you through this practice. Again, noticing if you're tensing up the legs or the arms. Slowly lift the head, walking the hands back. And then we're going to bring our legs out in front. So I'm going to turn sideways. Bringing those legs out in front of you. Pull that flesh out from underneath your bum. I always like to do this because then you can really feel your sit bones rooted into the ground. If you tend to have tight hamstrings, your knees may be a little bent. That's perfectly okay. Maybe you put a blanket or a towel under there to support it. You can also put a block if that feels good. So you may want your block again for this pose as well. We're going to walk the hands out, keeping that spine nice and long, hinging from the waist. Only walking them as far as you can. And then from here, just allowing yourself to relax. So allow the elbows to bend, hands to soften. And again, the block can be there to support the head if that feels good. Keeping the feet flexed, the legs engaged. Notice how your body softens, lengthens, and stretches. And slowly releasing the block if you had one. Walk the hands back up. Coming into butterfly pose, so soles of the feet come together. You have options here. You can bring those heels closer in towards the body, or you can take them a little bit wider or further out from the body. So just find, again, what's in your practice and what feels good. Sitting up nice and tall, shoulders rounding and pulling them back and down. Opening up the thighs, pressing those knees down towards the ground. And then walking those hands out, once again, hinging from the hips, going only as far as you can, and then bending the elbows, letting them rest on the ground, or however you can soften the arms. Using that block if it feels good. Feeling a nice stretch in the inner thigh. The hips. Shake the head, yes. And no. And walk the hands back up. Coming onto our bellies. We're going to bring those elbows underneath of the shoulders. Shoulder width distance apart. Hands are on the mat. Fingers are spread nice and wide. Feet are planted so the tops of the feet are on the ground or on the mat. Nice little mini back bend here. Pulling again those shoulders back and down. If that's too much, you can always walk the hands out a little bit in front of you. And that lessens the back bend. Again, remembering this is your practice, so find what is in your practice for you. Gaze is slightly out in front of you and down at the ground. Walk those hands just a little bit more in front of you. Bending at the knees. And just windshield wiper the legs back and forth. And release the feet back down to the ground. We're going to press ourselves back up. And we're going to come onto our backs. Taking your block with you, you will need it. So coming onto our backs. We're going to bend that left leg. Sole of the foot comes onto the mat. Left leg goes up to the sky. Bending at the knee on that right leg, and place that ankle just below the knee on the left. If this is enough and you can feel a nice stretch in the hips, stay here. Otherwise, you can bring that left leg towards you, clasping your hands either underneath the knee or the thigh or on top of the shin. You should feel a nice stretch in that hip, the outer and inner thigh. Flexing that right foot. Release that left foot down, back to the mat. Release the right foot down to the mat. This time, left foot goes up towards the sky, bending at that knee, placing that left ankle over just underneath the right knee. And then pulling that right leg in towards you again, clasping the hands underneath the thigh or maybe on the shin. Keeping that left foot flexed. Release that right foot down to the mat, left foot down to the mat. This time taking that left leg out nice and long, hugging that right knee in towards the chest. And then with that left hand, guide that right knee over towards the left. Another nice twist here. Opening up with that right arm. You can bend at the elbow or maybe take the arm out nice and long. Gaze can go up towards the ceiling or over towards that right hand. If you need to support that right knee, you can place a block underneath it. Slowly come back to center and release that right leg out straight and hug the left knee in. And with that right hand, guide that left knee over towards the right, allowing that left arm to come out to the side, maybe bending at the elbow. Gaze goes up towards the sky or over to the left. And coming back to center, this time hugging both of the knees into the chest and maybe rocking softly from side to side. one last pose before we go into Shavasana, setting up for supported bridge pose. So bending those knees, soles of the feet are on the mat. Walk those ankles as close as you can to your body. And with your block, you're either going to have it on the low or the medium. We're going to press into the heels, lifting the hips up towards the sky. And again, placing that block right at the base of the spine, or right at the hips, right at that sacrum. And allowing the hands to come out to the side, palms facing up. Maybe taking a moment here to close the eyes. Allowing that block to support you so your back can release. Noticing if you're holding any tension anywhere. And if you are, simply breathe in through the nose, out through the nose. Pressing in through those heels, lift the pelvis up to the sky, release the block, and come down one vertebrae at a time. And when you arrive back on the mat, take the feet as wide as the mat. And again, windshield wiper them back and forth. One way and then the other. And then taking the legs out nice and long, setting up for Shavasana. The feet wide. Hands come out to the side, pulling those shoulders down and back away from the ears. Palms once again facing up towards the sky. And closing the eyes. Relaxing the toes and the feet. Relaxing the shins and the knees, the thighs. Relaxing the hips. The belly. The chest. Allowing your back body to become heavy, fully supported by the ground beneath you. Soften the fingers and the hands, the forearms and the upper arms. Release the shoulders down to the mat. Soften the jaw, the forehead, and release the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. And breathe. You're welcome to stay here as long as you need. Otherwise, you can start to wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, making some small movements, maybe moving the head from one side to the other. When you're ready, you can come to one side, pressing yourself up and back into a seated position. Taking a moment here, ending where we began, bringing the hands to heart center. And as I leave you here today, may you be surrounded by peace. May you be filled with love. And may you be in good health. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.